Hey YouTube, got this guitar in for a pickup swap, so I thought I'd do a wee demo before I swap the pickups over. This is the vintage, I can't remember, the slash one, apparently, is what it was described as. Paradise, alright, okay, there's a Paradise City, isn't there? Maybe something to do with that. So it's kind of like a tribute to Slash's model, Zebra, Wilkinson Zebra pickups in it. And I'm going to fit Alnico Pro Slash pickups to it. So I'm going to do a video for that, but I figured I might as well see what it sounds like before. So, bridge pickup. Very high output unless there's a distortion pedal on. Isn't. Very high output pickups, these ones. It has to be unclean. I'm looking at it saying, is it unclean? It is my this is normally my clean. So very high output pickups. I can't actually play any Guns N' Roses, I don't think so. Next. So again, with vintage guitars, I've not really come across one that hasn't really been really good. I mean, it's actually quite flamboyant flambe on the top of it. Is this the one that's not quite the right shape? I can't remember. I remember someone talking before about they did the same with SGs. At some point, the serial number of this starts. It looks like 111, so maybe 2011. At some point, vintage I think got a wee bit of a cease and desist from Gibson. I know the SG changed shape. I'm sure someone's mentioned that the Les Paul changed shape as well, where it became a bit less of a Les Paul shape because it was just too close to a real one. So, set neck, mahogany, body and neck. Actual Clusson Deluxe tuners. I wonder if they're original. They look like it, but they're actual Clusson Deluxe with white snotty things on the top. Yeah. Rather a nice guitar. I don't know whether I would change it. I think it sounds really good. A lot of people walking past my house just now. Yeah, so basically I'm going to take the strings off this. The strings were actually off it when I got handed it. I think this guy just lives round the corner. At one point I did a video, I remember doing it in the snow. One of my out for a walk with the camera ones, I just walked to his house, got the guitar, so he dropped this off last night and I said I would do it today. So I'm going to video swapping over the pickups to Les Paul because that's a relatively common thing that people do. It shouldn't really take that long. Hopefully the pickups are just going to fit in quite easily, and that's it. I think he had an attempt at looking at it, took the strings off, possibly took the pickups out and then just looked at the wire and just saw spaghetti and then went I know a guy that lives 200 yards away. They'll probably wire that for me. So that's what I'm doing. So I'll see you sitting down there in a minute. Rocket. Hey YouTube, so I've got the Slash vintage Les Paul here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swap over the pickups. These, you can see them in the bottom corner there. These Zebra Wilkinson ones for a set of Alnico 2 Pro Slash Seymour Duncans. Should be relatively simple. What I'm looking at, I've got to use my pointy stick again. Basically what we're doing here is in a Les Paul, the pickups, there's 2 volumes and 2 tones, right? So what it does is the pickup goes into the volume control and then gets routed from the volume control up to the pickup selector. So there's a wire coming, the output from each volume control goes into the 3-way switch, and then there's a wire coming from the 3-way switch goes to the jack. So basically all I'm doing here is taking off the 2 wires that come off the pickup and then putting on the new one. That's should be a relatively simple job. I have said that before, and it doesn't work that way. I am having to work around. So find the pickup wires. These are, you can see there's the black, the red and white ones are stuck together. That's for coil splitting, which this guitar doesn't have in it anyway, and the guy didn't seem to want that. So just move some of this stuff. Some of these wires are a bit longer than they have to be. So basically all I'm doing is taking off this pickup. So it'll be the shield will be onto the back of the pot, and then it's wired not the way I would normally do it, but it's the way I'm going to do it here. So it's going to the lug 2. The hot is going to the lug 2 on the volume pot, and it's the same with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these off, both these pickups off the volume pots, and then I'll go in from the top and take the pickups out, because you can't take the pickups out because they're connected. So if I just go in here and just take off this wire, that's the earth wire off, and then the hot wire off. So that's the neck pickup removed. If I do the bridge one, you can see how I'm having a little bit of problem here with space. It's an awful lot. One of the things that is better about a Strat is when you can wire it up when it's sitting loose, but also the problem there is you can't work on it while the strings are on the guitar. So if you make a mistake, you have to take the thingy off. I should really probably just have cut this, but I'm going to try and melt it off. It depends what order these wires have been soldered onto there. Come on, release. Yeah, bastard. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yep, so I didn't damage anything else in there, did I? That's still connected. That's still connected. Right, so that's how I've got the pickups now disconnected. So what I've got to do here is take out these screws. So these look a bit like green screwdriver ones. You can sort of try to do this without damage, without knocking the camera. Some of them are going to work. Some of them I can get to. I can get to happen. Here you go. Look at it. The finish on this guitar is amazing though. It's really what's the word? Radiant. I think I used the word flamboyant. It's a flamboyant flame. Alright, so this should just be a case of just popping that out like that. Lovely. And then I'll do the same with the neck, which I suppose you can watch me in the bottom corner do this. These screws are very small heads on them. I don't know if they've been out before. Don't want to. It's the same screw. Chew the heads up. If it starts slipping, so you've seen my hairy arm instead of seeing what I'm doing. There we go. There we go. See? So as you can see here, there's a channel that runs from the pickup selector through here. So basically what these pickups do is these pickups both go through down into that channel to the volume pot, and then there's an output from the volume pot which runs up to the pickup selector, and then out the pickup selector to the jack socket. Quite simple. And when you're doing this, notice I took the bridge pickup out first. I'll be putting the neck pickup in first because take all 4 screws out without bashing the camera if I can avoid it. But the reason I'm doing this video is because I figured this is probably quite a common thing for people to do. Not necessarily from this guitar, but you know, other one, Wilkinson pickups, it says. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So where is the new Seymour Duncans? So these often come with these even get signed by Slash in the back. And does it say on it whether it's the bridge or the neck? Ah, these have got a braided cable because they're Seymour Duncan rather than the rubber cable. So these aren't actually coil splittable without breaking into them. Even came with a wiring diagram. Yep, which pretty much it. See, interestingly, this this wiring diagram is the way I would have done it. See, I would normally run the hot into terminal 3 and then the output from terminal 2, whereas the way this guitar's already wired is the hot goes to terminal 2 and comes out there. Doesn't make any difference which round it does, it's just whatever way you fancy. I'm not going to bother changing it because it's fine. It's going to be a wee bit harder. You can see here where it's showing you how to connect it up. The earth wire you have to solder onto this braided, which makes it a bit of a fidget. I've got to, instead of having 2 wires, I've got this shield on the outside, so I need to poke away at this a wee bit to get it to well, basically just do that sort of thing there, and then I solder this to the back of the pot, and then this goes on to the lug. A little bit fidgety, but it's the way it is. And I'm going to take this, it came with new springs and screws, so I'm going to use the new springs and screws just because they'll definitely fit. There's different types of different sizes of humbucker screws, so if I take the ones that came with it, then they're definitely the right ones, I would be thinking. And does it say on it whether it's neck or bridge? It says BRG, which I would think maybe means bridge if this one says NK. So this is the neck one, so I'll do the neck one first for a reason I'll explain in a minute. So if I undo this wire, I've probably got the camera slightly too close. Goes that way. So I'm going to take the pickup rings off. I'm going to use the same pickup rings, because the thing about using the same pickup rings is they definitely are going to fit back onto this guitar because that's what they're from. Pickup rings again, they may look the same, they all take a humbucker, but the screws might not be in exactly the same places. So I'm going to map that out, I might actually just, out of novel interest, I wonder if these Wilkinson pickups are actually pretty much copies of the Slash ones, because the guitar is called the Paradise, so you would wonder if they just copied the Seymour Duncan Slash models. I don't know, I've not looked them up. It's something to do, I think, it's the Slash like Alnico, is it Alnico 3 or something he uses, like sort of more vintagey sounding pickups than a lot of pickups are. We're just putting those screws back in that so that I don't lose it. But what I might actually do is have a wee look and see what the resistance ratings are. If I can find my, there's that. Can I do this? Just out of interest in how much of a copy it is. So there we go. So if you don't know how to measure pickups, this is how you measure pickups. So the original ones, I'm taking, these are the two coil splitty wires. Don't need to measure them. So I just want to basically measure from the earth to the hot. Not that high output. 7K is quite low, but it kind of works, I think, probably for what this is doing. Is this, so that's the neck one. Is this the neck one? It is. So if I do the same with this, and just basically run it from anywhere on the shielding, I'm just taking it on the shielding and then putting it on there, and we get 6.6, so 6.7, 6.8. Why it's rising, I don't know. Probably because my fingers are interfering with it. Yeah, so it's 7 odd, so kind of the same. the tendency for a lot of people, for when you look up pickups, it always says hot pickups, you know, the higher the output the better, and it doesn't really work that way, because is that the same way around? It is. Ah, that's his neck. It is. Right. Quite. Yeah. It doesn't higher output. High. Basically, what when you're measuring the resistance, what you're measuring is how much wire there is on it. It doesn't take into account what kind of magnet it is. It doesn't take into account what kind of wire it is, and all these things. So basically, all that the resistance really tells you is how long the wire is that's wrapped around the coil. These are, that's what was that? A slash specific thing. These are flathead screws. How annoying is that? You don't realise how much you don't like flathead screws until you try and use them. They're just that much more fidgety to use. Actually, I'm kind of when you've got a flathead screwdriver that's actually the exact correct size, and nothing like is annoying to use. But normally they're not. No, I'm doing this right way around. Yes. And I would normally have said that in a guitar you would expect. Once I put this on, I'll show you. Vast multitude of screwdrivers. Maybe this video isn't going to be the 5 minutes that I thought it was going to take. A little bit more to it. But it's these be annoying things that take the time, and this is not technical wiring stuff. This is just the physicality of making the pickup fit into the pickup ring, which is a case of using 2 screws to screw it in. Get it so it's sitting just slightly higher. I'll just the height of it later. But as I was saying there with the high output pickups, or the high resistance value pickups, some of the most powerful pickups I've got are DiMarzio Super Distortions, and they cut in about 7.5, 8K. They're not super loud things. So what I'm doing is I'm running it through. As I was going to say, normally when you're looking at a pickup like this, you would expect that this corner here, where the wire's coming out, goes down here. So you would normally expect it to go in that way. Yeah. But on a Les Paul, it doesn't work that way, because there's where the channel is that runs. Put that through, you can see it coming through the other side. There's your channel. So basically having it at the top's a good idea. Also, when you're looking at neck pickup, the outside on the neck pickup, the outside ones have got the adjustable poles, and the inside ones don't. And it'll be the opposite for the bridge pickup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this through here, put the pickup in, and you can see now why I'm doing the neck pickup first. So that's the neck pickup in, and I'm still in below. Obviously, if I'd already put what I might do to be a bit sensible here is, so once I've poked this through the back, right, I'm going to put these screws back in again. I have a tendency to only put 1 screw in to make sure it's going to work, or put 2 screws in, put diagonals in quite a lot of the time, and just to make sure the guitar's going to work. But these are new pickups, it's a new guitar. I'm pretty sure it's going to work, so I'm just going to put the 4 screws in. I don't envisage having to take these pickups out again. Oops. The rusher in me is totally tempted to just put 2 in, but I'll put the 4 in while I'll get the screwdriver out and we're going nice and easy. It's going to be a sweaty live stream tonight. I can tell that already. It's roasting in here, and I've got the window open. And to try not to interfere with the neighbours too much, I generally tend to, when I'm doing videos, I don't have the window open. I do with this one because I'm not playing the guitar. Right, so that's 1 pickup in, and what you think I'm going to remember here. So there's your. This is a little bit too close, isn't it? But there we go. So there's your the bridge wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of tape. I could actually just connect it on just now, but I'm going to do it both at the same time. I'm going to put a bit of tape on here, and I did. I'm aware the words I said were this is the bridge pickup. Actually, what I meant to say was this is the neck pickup. So what I need now is a Sharpie, and I'm just going to put N on it. That means I don't need to try and remember, work out which one's which. So that's the neck back in again. Onto the bridge, take the pickup screws out of this one. Maybe move that, you can see my foot. This is no foot fetish video. But I mean, I really like the sound of these pickups. I've got a feeling I actually said to get. I wasn't aware which kind of guitar it was he had. Just how much he charged me for putting in swapping over pickups. I gave him a price and said, and I just added on. I keep charging not enough, so I just added on. Yeah, and the old pickups. But I think these ones might actually be worth quite a bit of money. I might have to renegotiate somewhere. I think. I mean, he did say vintage guitar, but I never figured it would be Wilkinson. So I imagine these are probably what, 20 or 30 quid's worth of Wilkinson pickup, maybe something like that. I was thinking along the lines of, you know, if they were just bog standard sort of your Epiphone humbuckers or something like that, they're maybe worth, you know, I don't know, a tenner, something like that. I'm looking for the other packet of screws and springs, just to use the new ones. And I have lost my Stanley blade, which I like to use for these things. I'm probably sitting on it. I've not yet stood on a Stanley blade, but I mean, I think there's probably, here it is there. I don't like the idea of having loose Stanley blades lying about. Just, you've probably got arteries and stuff in your feet, so probably not a good idea having loose Stanley blades kicking about, just in case I stand in something and then bleed to death slowly while waiting for the ambulance to arrive. And as I said, this one goes the other way, so you get the screw poles go towards the bridge on the bridge one. And this annoys me. You can see it in this guitar. Everyone always says they've got OCD. I don't, but I look at that and go, oh, I want the two white coils to be on the outside and the two black coils on the inside, or the other way around. I don't want them both to be white on the right. But it's the way it is, and I'm sure it's the way Slash's one is, and I'm sure they know what they're doing, and it doesn't make any difference apart from just visually. I think it looks slightly better. Going for some more random talking about why you actually get zebra coils. It was back in the 50s, early 60s, all Gibson pickups were covered. You didn't get non-covered ones, and so they had metal covers on them on all guitars up until, I don't know, whenever it was they stopped doing it. But what people noticed was an early 70s thing. There was a thought that if you took the metal covers off your pickup, it makes it sound brighter. I'll maybe have to do an experiment with that at some point and see if it does actually make any difference. But that was the thinking anyway. So it was quite common for the 70s for people to go into their Gibsons and then take off the metal covers. And what happened was bobbins were black, but they started running out of them, or there was something wrong. They couldn't order them. They couldn't get them ordered in. The company they were ordering to pick up the plastic from didn't have any black plastic, so they just got cream plastic. Fair enough, doesn't matter, it's in below a cover. So what happened was when people were taking off the covers of their 50s Les Pauls and stuff like that, some of them would have black. Black was the normal. You have two black bobbins, and then some would have two white bobbins, and some would be one of each. That's where the zebra coil came from. It wasn't actually an intentional thing. Right, so I'm just going to poke this through the hole. There's actually quite a lot of room in this guitar. It's quite nice having. I'm just visually fumbling about in the back with my hand to try and get a hold of it. There we go. So that should just go straight in there, nice and easy. Try and do it without scratching the top of the guitar. Here's the wire. Pull it taut. There we go. And we're in. I'm probably not going to bother cutting these wires short. I'll just leave them long, just in there, just in case. You know, it makes them more sellable, I suppose, if he changes his mind, decides to go back. If you leave all the wire on, that doesn't make any difference to the sound where there's lots of wire. It just makes it a bit less a bit more spaghetti looking when you go in. And maybe get myself some sort of proper camera stand rather than using a piece of metal that's wedged in below my stereo. But you know, I can only get more professional as thing goes. So I mean, so far I've not actually done really anything that's hard. It's gone well though. I mean, it's like I kind of normally put a wee proviso in when I'm doing, because sometimes it's like, you know, the pickup. Not so much on modern guitars like this. I mean, this is, you know, these are modern guitar, modern pickups, so everyone's the right size. But if you're going into especially older sort of 60s or 70s guitars, it could be any. You know, sometimes you've got to write out and change pickup covers and dig deeper to take fatter pickups and all these things. This is a really simple, just straight swap. So I'll do the bridge one first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke away at this so that we've got two bits of there's your tip and there's your shield, and basically that's just what I'm going to do. So I'll crank the solder iron back up again. I'll do the same with this. I'll just leave it saying N on it. Doesn't really make any difference. And then so I've got a great tool here. This is an old dart from the 70s, I think, and it's like, see, if you poke away at these like this, right, and you kind of unravel the braided cable. I didn't do it with the other one, but I'm going to do it with this one. You can do this inside a lot of cord wires as well. You kind of, if you poke away at it like that, you're kind of unraveling it while you're doing it. Is it showing up in? It's sort of showing up in the video, like that, which means I can now kind of get a bit more of this off, because you don't want that shield touching any of the internal wires. They've got to be very separate. Yeah, so you really can't have any of these touching here. That's not good. Just make sure you get them all. This is just the extra fidgetiness of having to use braided wires. Also makes it much harder to solder. And if we get to the arguing point where vintage wires sound better, I really don't think they do. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever what wire you use, but it's what Slash wanted, so it's what Slash gets, and it does look a bit better. It probably only costs an extra 10 pence per pickup. Right, so I'm putting solder onto the tip of this, just like that. Yep, that's that ready, and then I'm putting solder onto this bit of the shielding. I'll do the same with this pickup. Do a bit of a poke about in here. Make sure these inside there is like wee strands. I want to make sure that's right, and make sure that's kind of quite neat looking, and there's no wee straggly bits if I can avoid it. Yep. Okay. Is that going to stay in a position somewhere that I can solder it so you can see it? Yeah, you can see that, can't you? Sort of. It's a bit out of focus. That's it there. Yep. So I'm just going to put solder, which I've now got. That's this. Yep. So I'm just going to put solder on the tip, and then solder. I'm going to keep your solder iron clean. Either wipe it in the jeans or just tap it on something. And solder up this, and you don't want to be. See how long. There's an experience thing that tells you how long you want to be holding a soldering iron onto a piece of wire. If you hold it on for ages, there's a fair chance that you're going to melt through the wire or something. So that's the neck, this is the bridge. I'll connect up the bridge one first. We get this. I'm trying to get it in such a position I can see what I'm doing. Actually, I can actually see what I'm doing better looking at the TV screen than I can what I'm actually doing. Here's my super tweezers. So as I've already put solder onto, there was already solder on the connections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this part, because it's the most important part. Both parts are important. Down and onto the terminal, where I'm pulling all these wires out of the way and not. So I'm just going to put that on there. I'm just going to weld that onto the terminal. I'm a little bit in the dark there. I can't actually see it, but because of the reason I've done it this way is I can now get it and I can go right. I can pull it and it's connected, so that's fine. And then I'm just going to move this bit over here, which is the shielding cable, and then manipulate it over like that. So that's the shielding cable now being soldered onto the back of the pot, and now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to double check that I definitely no, that didn't work at all. Sometimes the solder that they use on the original soldering these things is a higher melting point than normal solder. So sometimes it's easier just to put more solder on. It's not going to attach properly. That attached properly though. So there we go, we're on, and I'm now thinking about it. Neck, bridge, yeah. So the bridge is that one. So I suppose I'll just coil this wire around. As long as it doesn't touch anything, it's fine, because the thing is, if this braided wire touches the output the other terminal, or any of the terminals on that that pot, it might just short the guitar out and not work. So you've always got these things about. I'll take off this thing that says N, right, and I'm just going to do the same with this. So I'm going to a wee bit nicer. There we go. That's a bit better. A wee bit more room in there. So this is, see again, look, if you look there, what's happened is that bit of braided wire, yeah, is actually touching the output of this pot, and what that means is that it's putting the output of this pot to earth, because the outside of the braided wire will be earth, so this whole guitar will not work just now because of that. So you've got to be a little bit more Pokemon and poke it out the way, so that does not happen. There's plenty of room there to do that. What I've basically done is, if you can see there, I've kind of stuffed the wire down the back there. I could have cut it to length, but it's quite solid and it's all coiled up wrapped there. It doesn't matter if the braiding touches the back of the pot, because that's earth anyway. It's just it can't touch any of the terminals. Well, it can touch the outside terminal. It can't touch either the terminals 2 or 3, otherwise it'll short out the guitar. And I'm just going to stick the same wire on this again. These wires are sort of excessively long, but I'm going to leave them because it makes it better for modding later on if anyone ever needs to go into it. Try and make it as easy as possible for the next guitar tech, although I don't see it. I think putting slash pickups in this is probably quite a, look, there's a wee stranded mist. You don't want that, because if that wee strand's touching the hot signal, it could short out the whole guitar. And these wires are all slightly too long, so again I'm just going to poke them out the way. But that's the advantage of having rubber wires, because obviously if the rubber wire is basically like this, apart from it's got a rubber around the outside and it's not cloth. But so the rubber wires can touch anything because they're insulated, whereas the braided wire can't touch anything. If it touches some metal, it could short the guitar out. So I'm just going to put this into this hole, just heat it up a little bit, stick it in, and try not to burn any of the other wires that you're touching with the soldering iron. So that should be in, and it's like it's solid. And then now, if I poke these all out the way, I've got to try and get onto that solder blob there, being the earth. So if I spin this round and stick it on there, it should just be a case of melting this bit of solder here onto that blob, which shouldn't be too difficult. Might take a while again. It's like, because I'm using older solder. Sometimes it's an idea to sort of melt the big massive blob of solder before you try and attach into it. But it's working. We're getting there right. It's also much harder to be neat using the braided cable. Solid, right. So what I need to do now is ensure that this wire here, same as the last one, is poked down here, so that the pickups are both working, and there's not really any chance of it it's not going to fall out there. It's kind of So that's not going to fall out, right? But in theory it could. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do something which I wouldn't normally do, but I'm going to do anyway. Where's that white tape? I'm going to put a wee bit of white tape on it, just so there's absolutely no chance, you know, if whoever it is doing some serious rocking. I'm a little bit concerned that this wire here can accidentally touch this terminal and short out the guitar. So I'm going to put a wee bit of tape around the point that if it was ever going to touch, it was going to be there. So just a quick. Again, this is probably actually going to be harder than the actual wiring of the guitar part. If I can just get it started to wrap round. There we go. If I'd been a bit clever at this, I could have put some heat shrink tubing on it, but I've left it too late for that. So it might not look the best thing ever. This is purely a safety measure, or not safety, it's not dangerous, but it just means that that wire, if it does accidentally touch that terminal, it's clear and it's out the way. So it now can't short out. And that's never going to move. That's never going to move. So I'm now thinking the guitar is working. So before I restring it or anything like that, I'm going to stick it quickly into the amp and then make sure it's working. One of the reasons I wanted to do the start of this video as well was to make sure that everything was working before I did anything. So neck pickup, no bridge pickup. Bridge pickup, no neck pickup. And then the volumes will both be working because I've got them right way around, and then bridge, neck. You can actually hear when you're tapping the bowls with something metal. You can see what I'm doing using these tweezers. You can tell if the tones are working as well. And then in treble, tones working. So basically that's that. It's now working. So now I'm going to tune it back up again and have a wee play on it, I think. So I'm not really, I mean, literally I didn't do this at the start. There's the back plate. Goes on with 4 screws. I don't think that's really going to be beyond anyone's comprehension of, you know, talking about DIY skills. It's not really that difficult to put. Right, I'm going to assume where are the screw holes? Well, see, I had a 50-50 chance of getting it right. Now upside down, so I'm just going to put the back on. I didn't even bother. I didn't even fully take the strings off, so it should just be a case of just running this into the tuner, tuning it back up again, and then voila. Slash. I wonder if I should maybe put the 2 bits of the video together as a comparison. I might have a wee bit of a mess about with that. Mind you, I can't remember what it was I played. So I played that one bit from Paradise City, na, 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 which is the only bit of Guns N' Roses I can play. I used to be able to play a few things. I always thought Guns N' Roses, never my favourite band, never really one of my things, but see, for learning to play the guitar, fantastic. And there's a big if they didn't bloody tune down to E flat, because it's really good for learning the guitar, Guns N' Roses, because like it's a very, well, I'm not saying all the songs, but a lot of the big hits are very obviously rhythm guitar and lead guitar, and the rhythm guitar, I can't remember who it is that plays it, is quite often, you know, it's blasting out proper 3-chord rhythm guitar parts, which are, you know, it's excellent for learning. You know, it's like, oh, what songs, what are the chords in this? And it's like, it's A, D, and E. He has tuned his guitar down to E flat just to make it a bit more annoying than that, but you know, that's great. Whereas if you try and learn other things, one of the ones I refused basically to teach when I was teaching guitar was Oasis, because they don't use normal chords. Every one of his chords is straight out of a Beatle book, and it's like, if you look up back in the day when you used to get music books, it would give you like the Beatles guitar book wouldn't necessarily be just the guitar. It would be how to play the whole song, so on a piano, or, you know, the music. So rather than it being what Paul McCartney was actually, or what John Lennon was actually playing, was an A, and there was like a trumpet playing, you know, an F on top of that as part of the melody line, that kind of thing. So what they would give you is the chord for the piano music or for the guitar music would be an A, but it would have the F from the trumpet on it as well. So you'd end up with all these chords with extra notes stuck in, which are not actually the guitar part. They're in the song. So if you were going to arrange the song to play it on a piano, for example, you'd be able to cover more of the melodies because you were playing, you know, the guitar part and the bass part and a bit of a piano or the trumpet or whatever else is in it, or maybe a little bit of the vocal line at the same time. And that's where Noel Gallagher got all his chords from, the Oasis book, the Beatles books. So all the chords that they show you in Oasis things are very much, you're stuck with it. So it's like, oh, right, show me how to play Wonderwall. Okay, here's how you play Wonderwall. Right, show me how to play another Oasis song. And it's like, here's another 6 chords you have to learn that are not the same as the ones in Wonderwall. Because they're all, it's not A, it's A plus F plus slash G or whatever. And it's just, rather than just being simple, whereas something like, you know, Paradise City, whatever, it's A, D and E, assuming we're tuning it to normal. It's A, D and E, it's like, oh, what other songs can I play with A, D and E? You can play a million songs with A, D and E, and that A that you've been practicing learning to play your Paradise City or whatever it is the same A that's in Jumpin' Jack Flash, it's the same A that's in, you know, Satisfaction, it's the same. So it's like you've already learned how to use. So when you go on to play the second Guns N' Roses song, it's like, oh right, what are the chords for this one? And it's like, well, you've still got your A in it and the D this time. This time you get an E, so you have to learn one new chord, and you've got a whole new song. Whereas with Oasis, it's like you just have to start, and you just have to play them all. You know, it's like, oh, new song, 6 new chords. Oh, another new song, 6 new chords. I like keeping it simple. I always blew my mind. I remember my pal Robert had the guitar tab book for Led Zeppelin 3, and it was obviously it gave you like 4 lines of guitar, because there was four lines in a lot of the songs, and it's like they all looked so overly complicated and it was dead difficult. And it wasn't until I'd played guitar for a couple of years before I realised that what Jimmy Page is playing is just D. He's just playing A. It's just that. Oh, that pickup's way too high. You know, it's just A. It's just that he's playing it with one finger to make it easier, or he's maybe got a pinky on to put a wee chicka-ching on the back of it. But it's still just an A. And there's nothing wrong with just playing simple chords. And then when you start looking at when I was looking at things like that Zeppelin book, it was you know, the first verse would have this sort of A chord, and the second verse would have a slightly different one. And it's really, what it really told you was that for the first verse he was playing it quite softly, and then for the second one he was maybe rocking it up a bit, maybe playing, you know, or you know, it becomes very complicated when you look at all the, you know, the tab going through it, when basically it is just an A. It's just that instead of just playing A, he's kind of going, or kind of half picking it or something like that, which is not not really different from playing an A. It's still just an A. I don't know where my tangent's going at, but so this is going back up. I will stick a video up shortly of this with the new Seymour Duncan pickups in it. Rock it. Hey YouTube, part 3. I've just noticed that I had the mic there, so it's kind of, talking's probably not as loud from when I was doing the wiring part of this video, but it was there when I was doing the intro, so it should be the same. Although it's quieter just now than it was when I was talking. In the talking bit, this should sound exactly, the mic hasn't moved and the amp hasn't been touched from when this had previous pickups in it. So this had Wilkinson zebra coils in it. Don't have a make on it. Don't have a model number, and now it's got Seymour Duncan. Seymour Duncans, they don't actually say Seymour Duncan on them. I think you get that option with Seymour Duncans whether you wanted to say or not. It's like so apart from the fact that they're working with the screwdriver, I don't actually know what they sound like yet. So everything's just the same, and now we're on. Again, very high output, or not what you would expect from, you know, the ohms readings, because obviously, oh, it's 15k, that's going to be louder than 7k. No, that way, right? So these are high output, kind of vintagey, maybe a little bit like DiMarzio Super Distortions in my view, because that's kind of the only real pickup I know about. Definitely, I think they're more vintagey. than the Wilkinsons. But really, what I think is, like, see when you've got like this type of vintage pickup, when you've got the gain up not very much, you can make it distort. It's that's me what I use in my clean sound, and it's almost it's starting to break up just on the clean channel. Let me turn it down, it won't. But it's good to get that wee bit. The neck pickup work? Yep. Both pickups work. I'm not sure I could tell a difference. Maybe they do sound a bit more expensive. I think the Wilkinson ones were definitely the same ballpark, but these are just that have that wee edge on it. But I think it's one of those things that they're maybe 10-20% better. But that's your law of diminishing returns. It's like a £1,000 guitar is probably only 10 or 20% better than a £500 guitar. So it's kind of just to get that last bit. Same with, like, if I remember the analogy with hi-fis, people used to spend lots of money on hi-fi equipment, and it really was just to get a wee bit better, so you could get better speaker wire, better phono connectors, and every little bit just got you that wee bit better. But the better you got, the more you had to spend, and the harder it was to get really small increases. It's like you can get the cheapest Epiphone Les Paul, whatever. The fact there's a slash one, isn't there? Like that's obviously not set neck and all that. And sticking these Seymour Duncans in it will make a much bigger difference to that guitar than they did to this, because this already had pretty good pickups in it. The Seymour Duncans are better, but not magnitudes better like the way they would be if you'd upgraded. That sort of thing. See, I think that's distorting much quicker than they were on the previous pickups. I see. Talking about the placebo thing, I'll be totally honest, I kind of wanted these just to sound exactly the same as the Wilkinsons, because I don't really buy expensive pickups. They don't. They're better. Definitely. I can't really describe, I'm not good at describing why they're better. They just sound better. This is in the realms of taking a guitar that's already good and making it a little bit better. A lot of the time I'm taking a guitar that isn't good and making it work. So my percentage increase, like for getting a guitar that has really rubbish pickups in it and putting Wilkinsons in, makes a huge difference. You get a guitar that's basically sounds pants to one that sounds really good. Whereas in this one, you're starting with a guitar that already sounds really good, but you're just making it sound really good a wee bit more. Rather than having the big change in it. I think it's worth it. I can sort of see Gibson's point about not wanting them, assuming that I'd not just made this up, trying to change the shape of them so it's not quite the same as a Les Paul, because it's a Les Paul. not a massive difference between this and a £2,500 Gibson, I'll be honest, especially now it's got the slash pickups in it. I mean, the top on it, I assume it's got to be a veneer, I suppose, but it's really, really nice. It's really deep. It looks sort of 3D, so maybe it is a proper cap. I think it is. I think it is a proper maple cap. Because you can sort of see where the cap runs a bit behind the binding. Which I suppose you could argue is a quality control thing, but I mean, you know, because the binding doesn't quite cover the mat. It doesn't make any difference to the way it plays or anything like that. But I guess if you're paying, especially if you're paying thousands and thousands of pounds on a guitar, and it's like pure, the paint line between the body and the binding is a slightly wavery. It's like, oh, I paid £5,000 for this guitar. I want it to be perfect. I want the neck to be the right angle and the frets to be in the right place and the hardware to be everything in the right place and all working really good. Wee cosmetic things like that I can sort of deal with. Wouldn't bother me. I don't think this has got the same headstock angle. I think the Gibson headstock angle is a bit more breaky. The brake angle. I was replying to the headstock snapping off angle. I think a Gibson's a bit more angled. That's why the headstocks always snap off. But I mean, everything else is just a total copy. I don't see. I think you could. I know you couldn't. I was going to say I think you could give this to Slash and play a gig and no one would notice. You wouldn't, because he's not. Doesn't look like an official. I'm pretty sure he's quite heavily into Gibson, so he's kind of contractually got to play a Gibson. But I think if you were having a jam and he turned up and it wasn't being filmed and it wasn't like a performance, he's like, "Hey, do you want to play this?" He would love this. Always the thing when you get the two volume controls. You see me do it in every video I do when I'm doing an SG or something that's got the two volume controls. I flip the neck pickup and it's not working. It's like you see a wee bit of, oh no, what have I done? And it's like, I've got the volume control turned down. And Les Pauls, really, I mean, I know you can buy like a wee clip thing, but really it's just a design flaw. In fact, this has actually got a thing for a strap locks. You've probably got that on it, but on a Les Paul you kind of need that, or you need a big massive button because of the way the guitar sits. If you're holding it like that, that's fine because you're sort of pulling back on it, but you're holding it like that, so basically it wants to peel off. The reason I didn't drop it, and I haven't dropped a guitar, touch wood, for many years, is because I'm constantly aware of the strap might fall off. So it's like, anything happens, it's just be clamp down. As soon as there's any issue, just don't drop the guitar, especially when it's not my guitar. So basically, if you're looking for a Les Paul, I've not looked these up. I don't know how much they are. I would say hazard a guess about £300 or something like that. I don't know. So that's the same sort of price as an Epiphone, maybe. I'd imagine. Sounds like bottles falling over. Yeah. So it's a lovely guitar. I would recommend it if you're a Slash fan to maybe have a look at this. It's maybe not my. I don't like Les Pauls really. I've actually had a few quite recently that I did actually quite like. I quite like. I had a rally one. I've just done a swap thing for Trade Tuesday. I really quite like that as well. Was the rally better than this one? That'd be a bit of a fight. I'd say that much. I don't know. I do find it slightly annoying that the two white poles are here and here instead of being on the inside and the outside, but that's the way it is. That's the way it's meant to be. Yeah, so saw a big massive chip in the top there, and it's not. It was just a wee bit of fluff. So I'll give this a bit of a wipe, since it's actually quite hot just now. I've got a bit sweaty, so I'll wipe this down, put it back in its case, and then that's your guitar done, and these pickups sound pretty rocking. So hopefully that video was quite useful, and not... I realised that the other video I did this morning was trying to explain how the coil adder works, and it's like, with a... it was quite complicated. It's not really that complicated with this. So basically what you're doing is the pickup goes to the volume pot, and then it goes from the volume pot to this switch, and then it goes from this switch to the output jack. The tone pot runs off the volume pot. If you take the tone pot off, everything still works the same, but there's no tone. It doesn't actually, it's not in the circuit as such. So it's pretty, not that difficult. But if you don't know what you're doing, which I'm assuming that the chap who owns this maybe didn't really know what he was doing. If you're not really that good with the soldering iron and stuff, it is possible you're going to melt things and bend things and put things on wrong. All I really did was take off the 2 wires that go from the pickup to that pot, the 2 wires that go from the pickup to that pot, and then swap over the new ones. But I knew, and I mean I knew, what those wires did and where they went. If you don't know and you decide to just try sticking the wires on you could end up with anything. So it was a much cheaper and easier job for me because it hasn't been messed with. I had a guitar before, it was a Swift Les Paul, and the guy said, I don't think the wiring's quite right. And it was like, what the guy done is basically there's 4 pots. Every single wire in the guitar was all soldered onto one lug of one of the pots. And it's like, how could that ever have been right? But, yeah, who's to know these things? Wiring's not that difficult. Rock on, catch you later. I have no idea what day this will be going up. I might put it up on Tuesday, actually. So I don't think I'll have anything to do for a Tuesday video. I'm kind of trying to mix it up so that I've got some wiring ones and some technical ones, and then some pedals, and then some out the car, and then some just demonstrating guitars. I mean, this guitar is an achievable one. It's like a lot of the guitars I do are kind of, a bit more mad. You don't see very many of them, but I'd imagine there's probably lots of videos of this, and lots of people buy them, and I think it's a really popular guitar. It's a sort of the clever man's Epiphone, maybe. Don't know. I'm not a huge Epiphone fan or Gibson fan, but every vintage I seem to come across, I seem to have been pretty impressed with it. And I'm not just talking, I know that later on ones have got all the Wilkinson hardware and stuff. In fact, this one doesn't have Wilkinson hardware. It's got Clausen. It's got actual genuine Clausen tuners on it. The earlier vintage brand don't have Wilkinson pickups on it and stuff, but they're not rubbish. The stuff that's on it's maybe not. It doesn't have the solid. It says Wilkinson on it, therefore I know it's good, but it's a similar sort of quality. I put pickups out of vintage SG, like a non-Wilkinson one, and they were awesome. Put them in a wee telly. Rockin'. Catch you later.